Oh, yes.
Where's Rachel? Where is she? Where'd you... Harvey? Where did you put her? Where did Harvey put Rachel? Hello. Hello. You're watching Nerdish. I lost my shoe. You gotta put your shoe back on. Go with it. Very good. What are we doing here? Well, we do SAT, ACT prep for everyone. Yes, and the question is not where is Rachel, but when. 8 to 9:30 p.m. That's when Rachel is. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Watch it. Just see what it's like. It's for free. All week long. You can ask us questions like where's Rachel? And what you do with Rachel? And where is Harvey Dent? They're both studying for the SAT. It's a very important test if you want to go to college or university. Nice. I should have said university first because it rhymes. Oh, that's Catwoman. That's okay. I think we know Catwoman because we're Batmen. Let's do a problem. Yeah. We did exponents last time. What should we do? Let's factor a quadratic. Okay. Man, when it comes to education, I'm an addict. Oh my god, but not that kind of addict. No, just a quadratic addict. I hope this is factorable. Oh, it's gonna be factorable. Add 6. Okay. 6 is for Rachel. Alright. Let's take out a 2. Let's make it equal to 0. That's a good idea. Okay. So let's factor out 2. X squared minus 2. How much time do we have before Rachel explodes? Ask Harvey. Harvey. Multiply to positive 3, add to negative 2. I don't think that's possible. Oh, shoot. That's okay. Sometimes you can't factor quadratics. And sometimes you can't save Rachel. I was about to say that. I'm so sorry. No, it's good. It shows that we're tight bonded, like Tight Bond, original wood glue. It has a tight bond, like me and Levi.
You won, I want to say.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yo, turn that off.
I'm
quickly.
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't
Oh
know.
gosh.
They
Hey.
don't see that box, do they?
I doubt it.
Hey! Hey, everyone.
Hi, Stream Elements.
Hi, Stream Elements. I'm Brady.
I'm Levi.
And together,
We have 0 viewers.
yay! But separately, we both have 0.
0 divided by 2 is 0.
0 plus 0 is also 0.
For now.
But 0 to the 0 with power
Is 1.
is 1. I just can't wrap my mind around that.
No.
Are we sure about that?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. It's okay, Bird.
Yeah, I don't know what it. I don't know that it is though. I don't know if it's okay.
I'll show you the thing.
It says it's undefined.
Yeah.
You're gonna show me the thing? It's a limit thing, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Just don't like it. Right. I think it 0 to the 0. The limit as x. The limit.
Sorry, 0 to the 0
power.
factorial is 1.
0 to the 0 factorial.
No. Just 0 to the 0 factorial is 1.
Oh yeah, I know that.
0 to the 0 is that 1?
That's what I was saying. I understand 0 factorial, man. We don't condone violence. Now I'm talking 0 to the 0th power. That's a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
It says here that it approaches 1, but it's undefined.
I'm gonna just stick with that.
All right, everyone. Today's a big, big day. It's always a big day because it's Nerdish Day. Woo! Splat. Blood everywhere. Levi,
Yes.
can you see the green box?
I'm about to tell you.
Today on Nerdish. Oh, it's Ho No.
Oh no.
Hello, Ho No. How are you. You're very good, I hope.
You're always so well behaved.
Yes,
Ono,
you are.
Unlike your little brother.
We're gonna
Terrible.
terrible younger brother. We're gonna talk about the discriminant, not discriminant. And discriminant. The discriminant helps us with quadratics. You have a standard form of a quadratic. You've got ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, which gives you a parabola, a pair of bolas, and if you solve that for x, you get the quadratic formula. Minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now the quadratic formula solves for x, and if you find that on a parabola, that gives you the x-intercepts, because we're setting it equal to 0, which is almost like saying, it's exactly the same thing as saying, when y is 0, what is x? And that question is, what are the x-intercepts? So this formula, the quadratic formula, gives us the x-intercepts of a parabola. Now. Parabola having x-intercepts can be a couple different situations. Situation 1, there are two solutions, or two x-intercepts. This can be accomplished in two different ways. Either an upward-facing parabola with its vertex below the x-axis, or a downward-facing parabola with its vertex above the x-axis. Those are two solutions. The most solutions you can have would be two. You can't cross the x-axis more than 2 times if you are a quadratic. You can.
Wait, what if your x-axis looks like this? Here's your x-axis and here's your y.
Are you just going to be a big bozo today?
And then here's your parabola. It's kind of like right on top of it, you know?
Right.
So infinite.
Well, if that's the case, I think then, okay, so that's a parabola, and that's the x-axis, and then this is bozo. I think bozo's right there.
Okay.
So let's erase this, because this is just confusing.
You haven't taught your kids the trident axes?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I don't think I ever will. I'll just confuse them.
Okay.
Oh, no, do you have any questions? Put them in the Discord. You can't see the green box, right?
No.
Good, very good. All right, that is situation 1.
Can you?
Can you? Can I?
You first.
Very good.
Can thou?
Canst thou?
Canst thou?
Situation number 2. We have a parabola that just touches the x-axis and then goes back down, which means its vertex is located on the x-axis. It has an x-intercept, but it only has one that it briefly touches, very briefly. And in that case, we have one real solution. But the third case, and this is the scary one, so if you get a little spooked, I'd understand.
So worry.
Ugh. The third is when the parabola never touches the x-axis. It just doesn't. It just doesn't, all right? It could be here. So this is a downward-facing parabola with its vertex below the x-axis. It's just never going to touch the x-axis. Could be up here. Same deal. It's above the x-axis and it's going up. It's never going to have any x-intercepts. So in those cases, we say that there are 0 real solutions. Now something is going on here because you still have A, B, and C. You're going to throw it in here. You're going to get solutions, but they're not going to be real. They're going to be imaginary solutions, or complex, if you know the difference there. They're very similar. So you'll get 0 real solutions. You're going to get 2 complex solutions, which have I in there. I actually have a desperate cry for help. Yesterday was my last day at SAT prep, and I got my practice score back. My English score was terrible compared to my math score, and I'm taking the test Saturday. What do I do? Levi, here's the thing. The fact that your scores are so different means you got to make them equal, so do worse on your math. Bring it down to where your English...
No, Bert, no.
Oh, sorry.
That's not going to help her
Sorry,
at all.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, we got to get that English score up. Levi, come talk. Do you know what specific concepts you got wrong?
Yeah, was it the reading section mainly, or the actual writing section?
Those are quite different.
Well, okay, so reading. Did you see the breakdown with reading versus writing or no?
Yeah, which one got you?
You don't like it? More reading I got wrong. Okay. Just in number, because there are more reading questions by a bit. So if
Nope,
it's
not that. Sorry.
bird.
Didn't mean to.
What you doing?
Oh. Right.
Sorry, there's British noises. All right, you're definitely done, right?
Yeah.
You're totally finished.
I haven't got to the fun part.
Oh no.
More reading I got wrong.
Okay, so like there was one passage I got everything wrong. Was it the historical passage, or was it the science passage?
Or was it the historical science passage?
Ow.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know.
Oh.
Because the historical passage can throw a lot of students for a loop. And it's a slow loop, so when they get to the top, they fall down. Ah, the split passage. Was the split passage the historical passage?
Or was the split passage the science passage?
Or was it the historical science passage?
Or was it the split passage?
A lot of times it seems to be the historical one. There's one about... I'm sorry. I knew that you'd cushion my fall. There was one with like Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas. There was one with historical. Yes.
Dang.
All right.
Looks like you're talking about that.
Yeah. Hono. That is the most difficult passage of the reading section. So here's what I'd recommend. Do it last. You're not gonna, it's gonna be the hardest one if you do it first. Okay, if you do it first, you're going to get demoralized. It's going to rock your world and you're going to feel like you're gonna get a bad score, which is terrible for your confidence as you move into the other ones. I don't know if it was last or not for you. I don't know. A readie or a readle taking the SAT this Saturday. Yay, a readle! Woo!
Isn't it a readie?
I don't know. I think it's
It's
a
a
readie. Yeah. So Hono, when you get to that, the split or the historical, or if they happen to be both, skip it. Leave it till the end. That will have you a little more confident on the other ones first, and then you'll get to that one. Okay. That'll also probably take you the longest. During the test, I thought I was doing pretty good. Interesting. Yeah, it can be tough sometimes.
It depends. Okay, so did you feel... Okay. With these passages that are harder, you felt good on the section as a whole, or on this passage you're like, I'm killing it, I know the answers? Was it specific to that passage that you got everything wrong? Did you actually get everything wrong? Was it specific to that, or did you feel good about everything and that was just kind of more the same?
Good question.
Yeah, it was a great question. That'll probably help.
I understood everything it was asking. I just ended up picking the second closest mainly.
Next time, don't pick that one.
Yeah, pick the first closest.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why you'd want to pick the second closest.
Yeah. That should clear that right up.
Sorry.
We can talk about it on... Okay, Hono, let Bird finish this, and then we will get to...
We know. We were just pulling your leg.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pulled it right
Sorry.
off, unfortunately. Lots of
Yeah.
blood.
Severed tissues
Yep.
everywhere.
Screaming Hono.
Not Kleenexes. We're
Yep.
talking about like body tissues.
Yes. Not the brand.
Yes.
Body Kleenexes.
And bones.
Bones.
Yes. You know, because inside you there's a skeleton.
And bone marrow. Bird, you're not Bird, you're Hono. Once Bird finishes this, we can go through the historical reading passage on the SAT and we can talk about it right after that. Okay? I'll pull it up.
Go over some
Talk about
tips and tricks.
Yep, and tricks and tips.
I'm yawning because I'm tired. Because it's been a really big day for me. Okay? Alright, so how is it possible that we can get real solutions, one solution, or zero solutions? It all comes down to what makes imaginary numbers. Taking the square root of negative numbers. Okay? We got a square root up here. Underneath it, we got b squared minus 4ac. That is what we are talking about. That is the discriminant right there. b squared minus 4ac. Depending on what that is, that will help us figure out how many solutions there are going to be. All right? Here are the possibilities. Two real solutions. Our discriminant has to be positive because
you can take the square root of a positive number. You'll get a number. And then our quadratic formula says plus or minus. So for one of the solutions, we're going to add that number. For one of the solutions, we're going to subtract the number. We're going to get two different solutions. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay? One real solution, b squared minus 4ac, is going to be equal to 0. If that's the case, the square root of 0 is 0. So this whole chunk here does not matter. It's going to be 0. So saying plus or minus 0, they're both the same thing, which means that your x coordinate there is going to turn into minus b over 2a, which should be familiar to you because that is the formula for the x coordinate of the vertex of a parabola.
No.
Think about that. If you got one real solution, that is the vertex of the parabola, okay? So naturally, its x coordinate will be what we know to be the formula, which is minus b over 2a, all right? Pretty crazy, all right? I think people should go to jail for that, but, you know, good thing I'm not in charge of things. 0 real solutions. This is where b squared minus 4ac is negative. If it is negative, go for it. The square root of a negative number, you're going to have an I, all right? At least one eyeball in there. So it's not going to cross the x-axis, all right? That is the discriminant in a nutshell. Let's go over some examples. All right, let's say we have y is equal to x squared plus 5x plus 12. All right? How many solutions? How many real solutions? That's the question here. Let's do b squared minus 4ac. So b is 5. This is going to be 5 squared minus 4. Our a value is 1. Our c value is 12. So that's going to be 25 minus 48. And that is equal to negative. Doesn't matter what it's equal to because it's negative, which means we will have 0 real solutions. It's going to be 0 real solutions. Not going to cross the x-axis. Awesome, that was fun. We're going to do another one. Y is equal to x squared plus 4x plus 4. All right, let's see what happens here. So we got b squared minus 4ac. 16 minus 4 times 1 times 4. Ooh! 16 minus 16, 0. There will be one real solution to this one. All right? Pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. Now you're all probably wondering, I've never seen a discriminant problem. Well, you probably have. You probably didn't realize what they were asking, but you have seen a discriminant problem. And also, sometimes there are problems that there's a couple different ways you can solve them, but one of the ways, a little shortcut, is taking the discriminant, all right? Let me see if I can find one for you. Let's see what we got here. We got that. What do we think about this? No. Oh, jeez. Absolutely not. You'd think that we would have a discriminant problem ready. I'm going to make one up. I'm going to make it up. Yes, I'm going to make it up. That's what I'm going to do. All right, and it's going to be a fun one too. Here we go. Let's get rid of all this. Wow, there we go. I'm already thinking of the one I'm going to give you, and you'll realize how cool it is. You'll realize how cool it is. Okay. I'm going to keep that stuff up there because that's fun. Remember, you can always ask us questions on our Discord or write on the chat. But if there's a picture, you're going to want to send it to the Discord because we can put it on the screen. We have new technology, or at least we're better now because we figured out how to do it. The technology is the same. Wonder if any of you guys saw Endgame yet? I haven't seen it. Don't spoil it. I hear that Ant-Man is in it. That's kind of fun. He can get really small like an ant. Was he bitten by like a radioactive ant or something? What? How did he get his powers? I never saw that. And can Paul Rudd actually do that in real life? Is that why they chose him to be the part? There's a lot of things I don't know about Ant-Man. It looked too goofy for me. Honestly, I mean, I think it's probably cool, but Ant-Man is just something that I never heard of, was a superhero. So when I saw that was a movie, it was like, what is this for, like small kids or something? He turns into an ant? But I mean, it turns out it's a lot better, I think. It's a lot more serious of a movie than I thought it was. My friend spoiled it for me. Well, please don't spoil it for me. No spoilers. I also probably wouldn't even understand the spoiler that you told me. I don't think I would get it. Because I don't really know what's going on in that series. Gotta dry this thing out. I just wanted to let you know that I committed UIUC for aerospace engineering. Thanks for all your help back in October. It's Sherlatap. That is awesome. Aerospace engineering is sick. That's super cool. Hey, you're welcome. Thank you for watching our channel. That's what we like to hear. That's what we're trying to do here. And it looks like we helped out in a little way we could. That's super cool though. That's super cool. You gonna like design like rockets and go to the moon and stuff? Yeah, Mars. We've already been to the moon. Let's go to Mars. Okay.
We've been to Mars.
No, we haven't been. The rovers have been to Mars. Okay.
Oh, got it.
Go to the moon. Nice. Yep. Go to the moon. I'd like to go to the moon someday. I can't though.
I started with that.
Yeah, they're excited too. All right. Here is a quadratic. Okay, there's a quadratic, and we're going to say y is equal to c. This is a parabola. Y is equal to c, where c is some constant, would just be some horizontal line. We don't know what it is. And my question to you would be, what does c have to be so that, here we go, so that there's one solution to the system? Interesting. What is C so that there's one solution to the system? Well, we have a system of equations, and when you think system of equations, ways to solve them involve elimination and substitution. We can't eliminate here. These are very different kinds of equations. Usually elimination is used for two linear equations. We don't have that, okay? So we're going to use substitution. Now, substitution is where you solve for a variable and then take whatever you got for that and plug it into that variable in the other equation, all right? Both of these are already solved for y. So if we take what we have for y, which is c, and plug it in for y over here, we'll be on track to solve the system. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to insert c in for y over here. So we're going to get c is equal to x squared plus 9x plus 14. All right, I'm going to solve that. It's a quadratic. Our very first step should be get everything onto the same side and 0 on the other side, because that is standard form of a quadratic. ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. All right, we got to get this c to the other side, so we have to subtract it. So this is going to turn into x squared plus 9x plus 14 minus c is equal to 0. Perfect. All right. We don't want to solve this yet. All they're asking for is what c so that there's one solution to the system. This is a quadratic. They want one solution to this. You should think to yourself, that means discriminant. Number of solutions, discriminant. For one solution, we want our discriminant to be equal to 0. Okay? So let's plug in the relevant numbers. What is our b value? Our b value is the coefficient of x, which is 9. All right? Before we get to that, let's actually talk about what our a, b, and c are going to be. All right? Our a value is going to be 1, because that is what's right here. So a is equal to 1. Our b value is the coefficient of x, so b is equal to 9. Our c value, not to be confused with this c value, our c value is always the constant at the end that we add. We're adding two things at the end. We're adding 14 and minus c, so that entire thing represents our c value. Not this c, this is a different c, all right? That's kind of confusing. These are the standard numbers you see in a quadratic equation, all right? Our c here is 14 minus c. That is our c value. So now, let's plug things in. We got 9 squared minus 4. Our a value is 1. Our c value is 14 minus c. We want that to equal 0. If it does, we'll have one solution. All right, so let's solve this thing. We have 81 minus, we got to put this together. So that's going to be 40 and 16, which is 56. And then we're going to be adding the c because it is distributing a negative. So plus 4c is equal to 0. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. 81 minus 56. 81 minus 50 is going to be 31. Minus another 6 is going to be 25. 25 plus 4c is equal to 0. Move that over. 25 is equal to negative 4c. Divide by negative 4. Divide by negative 4. C is going to have to be negative 25 over 4, which would be the same thing as negative 6.25. That is our C value, okay? Negative 6.25. Now, just so you know what this thing would kind of look like, if you factor that parabola, you're going to get that your x-intercepts are 7 and 2. I'm sorry, negative 7 and negative 2. Your factors are going to be x plus 7, x plus 2, so your solutions are going to be negative 7 and negative 2. There's 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's another one. This thing goes upwards. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are the x-intercepts. It goes upwards. The question is, how far down does it go? The vertex is minus b over 2a. Negative 9 over 2 would be negative 4.5. Negative 4.5, negative 1, 2, 3, 4.5, which is right here. That is, right there, that is our parabola. And the question is, in order to have one solution, I'm sorry, negative 4.5 is the x value. So minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4.5, right? The y value of a vertex, you have to plug in that x value into the equation. If you plug negative 4.5 into the equation for x, the y value you're going to get will be negative 6.25. Take my word for it. So negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.25. It's going to be a little bit lower, actually. My mistake. I make mistakes too. Levi does not, though, because Levi is perfect.
Yes.
Levi is a golden god.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. All right. A horizontal line, this y equals c business, there's only one solution, means there's only one place that it intersects. So I'm going to give you my arm as where this thing could possibly be. Here would be 2 solutions because it intersects at 2 places. Down here would be 0 solutions. The only place it's going to have one solution is, bam, right there. If it touches the vertex, which means it has to have the same y value as the vertex, and that value is negative 6.25. Levi, I am done.
You done?
I am so done.
Oh. Okay. Hono, you ready to do some reading section? Say hi, Hono, if you're here.
Yay, Hono's here.
Good.
I like it when Hono's here.
You like it?
Yes,
Why do you like it?
because Hono's here.
Very good.
Yay.
Okay. Hono, we're going to go to the historical passage.
You ever thought about?
No.
Oh no!
Yes, I have.
Really?
Many times.
Oh.
Science. Ay, 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 ay. Historical.
You know what vinegar is? It's a solution with acetic acid in it.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I doubt
Do
it.
you know what acetic acid is?
Yeah.
It's the component of vinegar that's not water. Do you know what water is?
No.
I don't know what it is. Dihydrogen monoxide. Sounds pretty dangerous.
Okay, Hono, you let's talk about this stuff. Ooh, yeah, that's pretty good. I'll go a bit like that. I'll just go all the way down to the bottom, huh? do you feel about this? Can you read this well enough?
Me or them?
Uh,
We gotta make this bigger. If you make this bigger, it'll be legible. No, I'm sorry. I mean, you make the screen full screen. Not that. Are you talking about Hono or me?
Hono.
Okay.
Hono, can you read this okay?
Still you, man.
Yeah?
Oh yeah, big time.
Thanks. It's fine? Great. I'm glad it's fine. So, let's talk about this. Here's historical stuff. This is going to be hard. If we go down, is it the reading of the passage or is it the questions that you think is the issue? Do you think when you're going through and reading this trash here that you're not understanding it as you read, or that you don't understand the questions, or that the answer choices are, everything is fine and you get to the answer choices and for whatever reason you're just off? Any question types that are specifically more challenging? Although if you got everything wrong on this one, then that would probably be where to start on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks, Bird. Probably a mixture. Okay. So if it's a mixture, I would say when you're reading, one of the things you want to keep in mind is you want to be reading not only for the information, but for the location of the information. So we know this is in two passages, and we have Mr. Lincoln likens that bond of the federal Constitution. First of all, I would say read the blurb. If you're reading the blurb at the top, it might give you some extra stuff. It'll situate you for the passage, because this is high level reading. It's challenging, so don't just go into it blind. Go into it knowing that these passages are adopted from Lincoln-Douglas debates. Okay, so these are debates. That's interesting. And it's a statement by Douglas first, and then it's a statement by Lincoln second. And they were competing for a U.S. Senate seat. Oh, that's really cool, actually. Okay. So the first one is what Douglas says about Lincoln. The second one is what Lincoln says, or that's how it starts in the first passage. When you're reading this, it's not entirely about getting everything. You don't have to get everything first. Is time an issue for the SAT for you? On this passage or this section, are you running out of time? That's another possibility. So you're going to, oh boy, I should probably. Here's what I would recommend. I'm not sure what you're doing, but you should. I'm not overly concerned about time because I can get extra time. Oh, okay, great. So you have extra time, so we don't have to worry about time. When you are doing these questions, do the easiest questions first. Not because you're going to run out of time, but because they allow you to build up your understanding. So number 35 is where I would start. It may not be the easiest question, but it requires the least amount of understanding of the passage as a whole because it's just vocab and context. So let's do that first. Do you want me to go through this with you, or would you prefer me to just explain things? I think it would be good to see how I go through each question type very specifically, but if you don't want to, we can gloss over that. Whatever you're into. And anybody else who's here. You have questions to go through it. Okay, so let's go through it. Line 67. Element. So we're looking for element in line 67. Don't read the answer choices first, okay? Don't even think about the word, what is it, element? Yeah, don't even think about that. You do not need to know the starting word, and you should be figuring out your own word from the context, not using what they have and putting them in and seeing what sounds nice. At the end, you can maybe do that. It's not ideal though. So line 67, I'm going to read it over here. We have, but has it been so with this element of slavery? Okay. Have we not always had quarrels and difficulties over it? Okay, so yes, I think probably the way this is written is hard to understand because it's older vernacular and turns of phrases. So we need to figure out what this sentence means just by itself and then look at the context around it. So, but has it been so with this element of slavery? Okay, so an element can be a part of something, and I think that might be what they're saying here. It's with this element of slavery. So it's not saying with slavery in general, it's saying this element. This blank of slavery. Now we don't have to know the word element, so let's ignore it. But has it been so with this blank of slavery? What of slavery? So let's read a little bit before this. Line 64. They don't make a house divided against itself. They are the props that hold up the house and sustain the union. It doesn't help that much. But has it been so with this blank of slavery? Have we not always had quarrels and difficulties over it? And when will we cease to have quarrels over it? Like causes produce like effects. It is worthwhile to observe that we have generally had comparative peace upon the slavery question, and that there has been no cause for alarm until it... This is a hard question. I'm not seeing a ton of context that tells us, but there's a problem with slavery, obviously, right? We're having quarrels and difficulties over this blank of slavery. So not slavery itself, but there's a blank of slavery. We have quarrels over that. So I would say that it's some sort of piece. Would it be like an aspect because they say they? Yes, there you go. So aspect, that's fine. So let's look at the answer choices. Ingredient, no. Ingredients are not exactly aspects. They could be elements, but ingredients are for food. We're not talking about food, so that's wrong. Then we have B, environment. I don't like that either. You said aspect. I think you're pretty spot on with that. Not a big fan of environment. It's not an environment of slavery. That's not what we're saying. That can exist, but that's not what is going on here. Factor or quality. Factor is not bad. And then we have quality of slavery. I think that quality is a slightly better word choice here. It goes along with aspect a little bit more. I was going to say more better. Now, it goes along with aspect a little bit better. That's why you want to come up with your own word, if possible, before you go to theirs. Factor, that's something that causes it possibly, a factor of slavery. It's not quite what we want to say here. There's no causation. It's just a piece of slavery, an aspect, an element, a quality. Yeah? But how is it quality? A quality of slavery, so quality, it depends on how you're interpreting quality. It's not like this is high quality, something. It's not that high or low quality. But, you could ask somebody, what are your personality traits? What are your qualities, right? Parts of something, aspects of something are its qualities. So that's what I would put here. D, qualities goes along with aspects. Are you familiar with that usage of quality? Yeah, factor is not quite in line. There's a little bit more behind factor. There's some sort of causation implied, and that's not what we want. We're not talking about the causes of slavery. We're talking about aspects of it. Okay, but that's the first one we want to do because we have no idea what they're talking about still, so that's fine. But we understood it a little bit. Obviously, Lincoln is saying that there are problems with some aspects of slavery. Yes, there are. Good job, Lincoln. Okay, so now 38. We have, as used in line 84, nature most nearly me. Okay, so 84, nature. So this is what we do next. So ignoring the answer choices, let's go to line 84. We have, do you think that the nature of man will be changed? That the same causes that produced agitation at one time will not have the same effect at another? Okay. So blank of man will be changed. So some blank of man is going to get changed, and then it asks the same question in a slightly different way. And this is the context that we're given. That the same causes that produced agitation at one time will not have the same effect at another. So that's definitely a change, right? But the effect that something has once doesn't have the same effect later. So the way that man is, the nature of man, the you could say the qualities of man. What's another word for nature in this case, Bird? The blank of man, how men are, or people are.
It's not the condition of man, human nature.
Yeah, human nature. The condition is good. The way people are. That's what we're going for here. So let's go back down to the answer choices. We have force, no. Simplicity, no. World, no. D, character. I like character the best. The character of man, the nature of man. You wouldn't want to say force because why? I have no idea why we would say that. Why we would say that the force of man. Men are not doing anything. We're not talking about that. We're talking about things that have an effect and then have a different effect on people. And then we have simplicity. We're not talking about something being simple versus complicated, so that's no good. World, that's too big. So we went from a piece of man, the way men are, to the world of men, the environment. That's not right either. So D is the answer here. Does that make sense, Hono? Do you feel good about 38? What do we got here? Okay. Cool. Okay. And now we're going to go back up and look at the answer choices, or the answers again. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. We have, starting with the first question, we have in the first paragraph of passage 1, the main purpose. Okay, that's a purpose question. Purpose questions, you're not answering what happened, you're answering why they did what they did. We're not doing that one now because that requires a decent understanding of the passage. And then we do have 30, whatever these two are, 34, 35? No, 33, 34. We have what does passage 1 suggest about the U.S. government? Okay, so what does passage 1 say about this specific thing? They don't ask what's the main idea or what's the main purpose of something. They ask what does it say about this specific thing? And then they give us line numbers. I would recommend doing something like this next because they tell you exactly where to go and you're looking for a detail. What does it say? Not why does it say it, not what's the general thought process of this passage. What does it say about this specific thing? So we go to these. We want to understand the question of the first part, and then we want to go to the second part to find the answer. Do not answer this question first. You don't have to, but answering this first, you're much more likely to make a mistake, and you're looking for stuff on your own, which you shouldn't be doing. The answer is in 34, so let's start there once we know the question. So the question is, what does passage 1 suggest about the U.S. government's provisions for the institution of slavery as framed in the Constitution? Okay, so that's a slightly confusingly worded question, but we're in passage 1, so let's cut out that part of the question. The government's provisions for slavery. So what does the government provide for slavery through the Constitution? What is basically, what does the Constitution say that makes slavery easier for slave owners? Something like that. That's what we're looking for. So we're not just talking about slavery. We're not just talking about the government. We have to have the Constitution making provisions for slavery. That's what these lines have to deal with. If they don't deal with it, it's wrong. There's no question about implying things, so you have to make some assumptions. You're not doing that. It will say something. So let's go to 10 through 16. Oh, that's a lot of lines. Okay, fine. 10 through 16s. Ew. We have extended our territory from Mississippi to the Pacific Ocean. We have acquired the Florida. We have acquired the Floridas and Texas and other territory sufficient to double our geographical extent. We have increased in population, in wealth, and in power beyond any example on earth. That has nothing to do with slavery. I don't know who's talking, but it doesn't matter because they're not talking about slavery. Great. And just for good measure, so we're a little bit more well situated, who is saying this? Probably, no, it is Douglas, right? Does he say according to the Constitution? When did we learn and by what authority does he proclaim that the government is contrary to the law of God and cannot stand? It is stood, oh, I don't know, doesn't help, whatever. So 10 through 16 is definitely wrong. Let's go to the next lines, 25 to 27. We have, I now come back to the question, why cannot this union exist forever, divided into free and slave states, as our fathers made it? Okay, that has to do with slavery, and referencing our fathers, talking about the forefathers and the fathers of whatever, yada yada. So maybe that has something to do with it. So let's leave that be. Then C, we have 35 to 39. Also, Hono, if you're getting bored, let me know, and then I can move a little bit more quickly. We must bear in mind that we are yet a young nation, growing with a rapidity unequaled in the history of the world, that our national increase is great, and that the emigration from the old world is increasing, requiring us to expand and acquire new territory. Okay, so again, I have no idea what that has to do with slavery, so it's wrong. Then 41 to 45. Notice, I'm not working hard at all, right? I've just found things that have nothing to do with the question. That's how you should be approaching this, doing that first, because this will lead you eventually to the answer choices in the first part. Okay, 41 to 45. We have, if we live upon the principle of state rights and state sovereignty, each state regulating its own affairs and minding its own business, we can go on and extend go on and extend indefinitely, just as fast and as far as we need the territory. Okay, aside from it being wrong that you can extend indefinitely with regards to land on Earth, it says nothing about slavery. So this is also wrong. So just by being very, very meticulous about the question itself, we've just answered number 30, whatever it was, 4 or something like that. We know that 34 is, what did I say, B, right? Yeah, B. So that is the answer in B. So let's just read that again, 25 to 27. I now come back to the question, why cannot this union exist forever, divided into free and slave states as our fathers made it? Okay, so we're not paying attention to the question that he's asking here, but he's saying that our fathers divided the union into free and slave states. That's what they did with the Constitution. So we're talking about division of free versus slave states. A, provide. Oh no, that's the wrong question. A, they included no means for reconciling differences between free and slave states. Maybe, I'm not sure about that. We'll maybe come back. They anticipated the Union's expansion into Western territories. That's not what 25 to 27 is about. That's some of the other answer choices here, but we know those are all wrong. So B is wrong because it has nothing to do with 25 to 27. Then C, they provided a good basic structure that does not need to be changed. Nope, that's not what is being said there, and it also doesn't really answer the question with regards to the institution of slavery anyway. Then D, they were founded on an assumption that slavery was necessary for economic growth. Maybe, but that's not what 25 to 27 is saying. If he was saying, oh, some of the states rely on slavery for their means of economic growth, maybe, but that's not what the line said. So I think the answer is A for 33. They included no means for reconciling differences. That's sort of supported by the idea that they just made free and slave states. It's not a beautiful thing, but what we just did is we eliminated 6 answers in these 2 questions. I didn't decide, oh, I like A. I actually said, I don't, maybe we'll come back to A. I wasn't sure. It seemed to be in the realm of what 25 to 27 said. But that's how we go about these. Did that approach make sense? You thought it was C. They provided good basic structure that does not need to be changed. Okay. I'm going to give that another look then. They provided a good basic structure that does not need to be changed. Let's read these lines again. I now come back to the question, why cannot this union exist forever, divided into free and slave states as our fathers made it? It can thus exist if each state will carry out the principle upon which our institutions were founded. You might be right. The right of each state to do as it pleases without meddling is its...
Do you have the answer, Kia?
No. Do you know the answer?
No.
Okay. Could be C.
Nobody get the answer yet.
I don't love either of these answers, to be honest. Why would you put C? What do you think 25 to 27 go... You're saying C in number 33, right? The first one, I assume? They included no means for reconciling differences between free states and slave states. Yeah, you know what? You're right. I don't like A. A is a little bit strong. We say no means for... because they said that it was the Founding Fathers and he didn't want to change it. Yes, the way he asked the question was a negative. I think I missed that. So yeah, there you go. So C would be the right answer. So it goes C and B. Does that approach make sense? Starting with the question and going to where the answers literally are in the passage and then going back to the answers in the first question? That is okay, good. That is the most efficient way to do it with regards to not making mistakes. And obviously I took a really long time doing that, but you can breeze through this generally. You may not be able... I got rid of A, C, and D pretty easily because they just didn't hit on what they needed to hit on. I think all of them missed slavery, possibly. So that's not always that easy. Sometimes you'll be left with 2, and then you'll have to see which ones they match up with here, and then what actually answers the question correctly. So that's a slightly harder version. But yeah, we found B, and then you were right. It's definitely C here. And by eliminating things here, you just automatically eliminate things here, right? Because you know the answer. And then some of these do line up, but they don't line up with that one. So this has to support this. So if it doesn't support this, then it's wrong. It doesn't matter. Okay, so we're going to do those. So we've just done 4 of these, and we still don't have a fantastic idea of what's going on, which is okay, but we are starting to learn, right? Douglas is saying that we should leave states with their rights, leave things separate. That's how the Founding Fathers wanted it. So we have that. I'm still not going to go to the purpose. Let's go to 36 is based on passage 2. Lincoln would be most likely to agree with which claim. Okay. So this is most likely to agree. I don't love that. That's an implying question. Inference. That's an inference question. It's not what did he actually say, but what would he most likely agree with. I want to leave that one alone because maybe we need more time with these things. 39, which choice identifies a central tension between the 2 passages? That's a big idea thing. Let's stay away from it. 40 is both passages discuss the issue of slavery in relationship to... Where are the... Oh, Dalt. Anyways, just dropping in to say hey and thanks for all the help last week. Busy writing an essay right now. Cool. Enjoy. Yes, enjoy your essays. Are you taking the test, Dalt? Oh no. Okay, so let's do that one. I would say in the context of each passage as a whole question. '41 is a purpose question. Yeah, maybe let's, I think maybe 36, 37 is the next step. So it's a little bit harder because we have to do an inference, but at least it gives us line numbers. So Lincoln would be most likely to agree with which claim about the controversy over slavery. So we're talking about, you took it last Wednesday with school, was hoping to be done with it after that test, but I don't feel too good about it. Got it. Well, come back, you know? You can hang out more. You have to take it for the rest of your life anyway. So this question, 36, we're not talking about does Lincoln agree or disagree with slavery so much. It seems like what would he agree when we're commenting on the controversy over slavery, not slavery itself. So let's keep that in mind. That's a jumble of things. We have to think about the level where we're thinking. So now we're not looking at the answer choices. We're going to the line numbers, 56 to 61, keeping in mind what Lincoln would say about the controversy over slavery, 56 to 61. I agree to all that. Have, probably not there. Okay. Have these very matters ever produced any difficulty among us? Not at all. Have we ever had any quarrel over the fact that they have laws in Louisiana designed to regulate the commerce that springs from the production of sugar. Okay, so it starts off with have these matters ever produced any difficulty among us? Let's just make sure we know what these matters are. Oh, variety is what he's saying. I don't think this is quite right. That's my guess. I don't love these line numbers. Let's keep it in mind, but it doesn't seem like he's talking about the controversy of slavery necessarily. I could be wrong. Let's see if it's the first one, so we'll see if anyone is much better or much worse than this. 64 to 66. We have, they don't make the house a house divided against itself. They are props that hold up the house and sustain the union. Okay, what is they? Is it the elements of slavery? Is that what we're talking about? Or no? No. Oh, the variety. I think we're talking, or the differences. Or because we have a different class relative to the production of flour in this state. Have they produced any differences? Not at all. They are the very cement of this union. They do not make the house a house. Okay. I'm not sure about that either. This might be a hard one. 74 to 76. We have, wherever it has been limited to its present bounds, and there has been no effort to spread it, there has been peace. All the trouble and convulsion. Wait, is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. Let's talk about it. We have another pronoun here. We got to figure out what it is. And when we cease to have quarrels over it. Oh, it is slavery. Great. That seems better. I didn't feel super good about A and B because I wasn't sure exactly how they related. But now he's saying that there's no effort to spread it, then there's peace. Okay, interesting. And then we have 83 to 86. I'm going to read it on here. Do you think that the nature of man will be changed, that the same cause... Okay, so that's not going to be good because this has nothing to do with the controversy of slavery. So I don't like 83 to 86. I think I like 74 to 76 best, but we'll see. We're just going to have to go up to the first part now and check it out. It can be ended only if northern states act unilaterally to abolish slavery. No, I read nothing about the northern states have to act to abolish slavery. That was not in those answer choices. So I don't think A is correct. And that's missing the point of the question. The question is, what does he think about the controversy over slavery, not slavery itself? A is saying, Lincoln believes in abolishing slavery. That question is probably directed at people that think, oh, I am going to run through this because I hate this and I don't understand what's going on. But yes, Lincoln wanted to abolish slavery. This seems like a good idea. That's not the question, though. So I don't like A. B, it would abate if attempts to introduce slavery to regions where it is not practiced were abandoned. I really like that with regards to lines 74 to 76, where it said that there's peace when we keep slavery limited. So I think B and C match super well. Now C, it has been exacerbated by the ambiguity of laws regulating the holding of slaves. No, we didn't talk about ambiguous laws, so that's no good for any of those answer choices in the second part. And then D, it is fueled in part by differences in religion. No, there's nothing about religion, so no. So B is the correct answer in number 36, and that's the only one that lines up with C is the only one that supports that, so there you go. I would say B and C. That ended up being a little bit easier than I thought, because when I was reading A and B in the second part down there, I really didn't know what was going on, but C cleared it up because that talked about if we don't try to spread slavery, then problems won't arise. And that one was answering the question, or at least on topic, because it wasn't talking about slavery as, Lincoln thinks, oh, slavery is good or slavery is bad. It was more about the controversy over slavery in the U.S., and that was talking about, well, let's not spread it, let's keep it limited. I feel like I don't get what's happening in the quotes to get that answer. Okay, so let's go up to those. We have whenever and peace. Oh wait, no, this is wrong. There we go. Okay, whenever it, meaning slavery, so whenever slavery has been limited to its present bounds, so that means if slavery is in this area of the map, and we limit it there.
I'm a child.
Okay, see ya. To its present bounds, and there has been no effort to spread it, there has been peace. Okay, so all he's saying there, it's not a super complicated thing. You don't have to make it super complicated. It's just saying whenever slavery has been limited to here and it's not trying to spread, there's peace. And then in the first part of the question for 36, we have B, which is it would abate, meaning the controversy, not slavery, but the controversy around slavery would abate if attempts to introduce slavery to regions where it is not practiced were abandoned. That's what it's talking about in the quote where it says, if we keep it there, there will be peace. Does that make sense, that connection? This is hard. It's very hard. Sort of. Okay. What word or words, is it the answer choice, or you said it's the quote, right? What part of the quote isn't that clear to you? Is there a word or a phrase that doesn't make sense in your head? Did we get a Discord question? Sorta. Okay, I don't know. I just have trouble reading in general. English is your first language, right? It's not that. It's just reading is tough. You have the extra time. Okay, so there's that part of it. Whenever it has been limited, I think one of the important things in English that people miss, if you have a word, then you know what we're talking about, right? But if you have a noun, you're just talking about slavery. Slavery is this, slavery is that. That's easy. What's hard is pronouns and then the relationships between pronouns. So in these lines, we have whenever it. So we need to actively know what it is, not just start reading the sentence and hope, okay, well, I hope I know what it is by the end of the sentence. You may not figure it out. So whenever it has been limited to its present bounds, if you don't know what it is, then this whole phrase doesn't really stick. If we say slavery, whenever slavery has been limited to its present bounds. So if you are having trouble understanding a sentence, break it up. Whenever slavery has been limited to its present bounds. Okay, remember this is back then, so it's not present now where there are no limits on slavery in the U.S. because there is no slavery in the U.S. As it was, anyway, okay. We have, and so whenever it was this, and there has been no effort to spread it, meaning slavery again, there has been peace. I think the pronouns are probably the biggest thing, and then also the way the questions are worded, I think. That's super important, and I already talked about this, but I'm going to say it again. We need to, it's not these general things that you can sort of gloss over and say, okay, I'm going to generally connect slavery and Lincoln, and that's what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for those words in proximity to each other. That's not good enough for the harder questions, like this one. It's not, A is, very likely something that Lincoln believed. He probably thought that slavery could be ended only if northern states act unilaterally and abolish slavery throughout the U.S. He probably thought that. Also, he ended up, being the president during the Revolution. But that's not the question, because the question's not about the question did not say what does Lincoln think about slavery. You have to give every word in the sentence its due. Okay? I'll stop pontificating in a second. Lincoln would most likely agree with which of the following about the controversy over slavery. So we're not talking about what Lincoln thought about slavery. We're talking about what he thought about the controversy. So controversy and peace go together. He thinks there will be peace if people don't try to spread slavery. Lincoln was very much he was trying to keep the Union together. That's kind of what his MO was a lot of the time, even when he was going for the Senate seat. No, okay. Do you want me to talk about 36 and 37 anymore, Hono? We can go on. Sorry, my neck is cramping. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we've done 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, and we've done 38. Okay, so we have these 3 questions here, and we have this one question here, and that's it. So that's great. We've done most of it. I just think my reading is screwed. I end up reading the same sentence like 5 times before moving on. The same sentence in the passage or the same sentence in the question? Because I can help you with the passage. I can help you with both of those things. Both. Okay. So let's start with the simpler one. In the question. Every phrase you read, generally every time you hit a comma, make sure you know what just happened. So in 36, for example, based on passage 2. Okay, now you can put in your mind that you're talking about passage 2 and then ignore it. Now your life is simpler. You know you're focusing on passage 2. You're not thinking about that's part of my sentence anymore. Passage 2, great. Lincoln would most likely agree to which, okay, with which something. And then we're going to say what he's going to agree with. So make sure as you hit with which, you know that Lincoln would most likely agree. 1, you should be able to identify, oh, this isn't he's going to say, I agree with this statement. He's going to say something that would allow me to infer that he's going to agree with this statement, because it says most likely to. These questions come up over and over, and you've seen a lot of them to the point where the identification can come a little bit more quickly. So Lincoln would most likely agree with which claim. Okay. So we're asking about what Lincoln's going to likely agree with, and now we're going to hit the claims. So you know how writing is set up, and I think people try to just understand all of it all at once. And that's not that useful because it generally doesn't happen. You're used to, in English class, just reading and letting the stuff come to you. You don't have time for that, and this stuff is boring. You have to go to the writing that you have to go to the text and get it. Pull it out, be logical about it. So you know they're about to explain the claims to you. What is the claim? So it's a claim about the controversy over slavery. So now we can put together the pieces of this sentence. Try to break it up as much as possible. Make it as logical as possible. You should be able to, you're trying to recognize hints as to what's coming next. Just like the sentence organization questions in the English section, or the writing section of the SAT. If the sentence that you're trying to put, after sentence 2, after sentence 7, whatever it is, if it says, and what she saw surprised her, or what she saw next surprised her, you know that they're going to tell you what happened. Right after that, they're going to say, this happened, and it surprised her. And then also, since we started that sentence with what happened next surprised her, who is that her? We need to know that beforehand. So there are those hints that come from you reading for a very long time, right? And you should be able to start building a map for yourself of what you think is coming, and then it allows you to integrate that new information. Okay? I know that's a lot of talking. Let me do Alt to Ipsum, and then we'll go back to this, and I'll talk about understanding the passage as you read it a little bit more clearly. Okay, this is Alt to Ipsum. They're our sponsor. They do. Oh boy, I haven't done this in a while without Brady. I just have it memorized as it's Latin for summit yourself. So it's about making yourself better. You can outsource all your stress to it. It's a grade tracker. It's a planner. You can put all your classes and your work into it, and it will create study plans for you and allow you to see your progress and your trends with regards to classes you're taking. It's an app on your phone. It's also in your browser, so you can use it on Chrome or Explorer or Firefox or whatever you're into using, Safari, any of those things. This is Accelerate. This is our tutoring company, so if you want private tutoring, let us know. Okay, let's go to the passage. Come on. There we go. Okay, this is a hard passage, so we'll have to deal with it. So we know what this is about now, but let's go into the next passage, so we don't know what's going on. Okay, this is about, if you want to read the whole passage, that's fine. You do have time, but it might just confuse you more because there's more information, and you're not trying to take in all of this information. You are trying to understand, okay, here is the main thing they're talking about, and I know where they say important stuff, and so when they tell me to go there, I'll understand how it integrates into everything else, but you don't have to understand everything. Okay? So you just need to know where stuff is. So we have, let's read the blurb. This passage is adapted from this dude's What a Plant Knows, a field guide to, okay, a field guide, so it's about plants, great. The Venus flytrap, something, now it's binomial nomenclature, needs to know when an ideal meal is crawling across its leaves. Closing its trap requires a huge expense of energy, and reopening the trap can take several hours. So, this thing only Dionea only wants to spring closed when it's sure that the dawdling insect visits its surface is large enough to be worth its time. Okay, so what we've gotten from this, we could have actually gotten from just the first sentence, which is the Venus flytrap needs to know when to close its mouth because it wastes it uses a lot of energy. That's what we have there. Let's keep reading and see when we can skip stuff. So if it's, I'll show you what I mean. The large black hairs on their lobes allow the Venus flytraps to literally feel their play, and they act as triggers. Okay, they act as triggers. You know what Venus flytraps are, right? So you know exactly what they're about to say. So let's skip it. They're now talking about the literal mechanism for how it closes and opens. So now we know that's what they're talking about here. Let's skip it because there's no point, right? We are spending our brain power not on understanding every word of what they're saying now, but understanding enough to say, okay, Venus flytraps need to know when to open and close because it wastes energy or uses a lot of energy. This is how it sort of works. Now let's move on. We can look at the system as analogous to short-term memory. Okay, first the flytrap encodes. Okay, so now we're going to have this big extended metaphor, right? We have the Venus flytrap and we have short-term memory. That's it. They're going to explain that parallel for a little bit. So let's skip to maybe the middle of this, middle of the paragraph. If a small ant takes a while to get from one hair to the next, the trap will have forgotten. Okay, so it's still talking about memory, so let's skip it. How does the plant encode and store the information? How does it remember the first touch in order to react upon the second? Okay, so now we're setting ourselves up, right? Now we know, how do we do this? How do we do this? How does it actually do this? Scientists have been puzzled by these questions ever since this dude early report on the psychology of the Venus flytrap in 1882. Yeah. A century later, these guys proposed that the flytrap stored information regarding how many hairs have been touched in the electric charge of its leaf. That's really cool. Their model is quite elegant in its simplicity. In their studies, we're going to be learning about what their studies are. Let's not find out, okay? Because we know, we'll be triggered here to know what they're going to talk about, or to find out in the questions. They'll tell us what to do. So let's skip it. Okay, then line 50, we have, they propose that the trap requires a relatively high concentration of calcium in order, okay, so this is more about how they think this mechanism works. So let's skip along. The encoding of the information, on line 56, the encoding of the information requires maintaining a high enough level of calcium. So still talking about calcium. So now we know calcium is in our heads. That's in this paragraph. Let's go to the next paragraph, 65. We have subsequent research supports this model. Great. Okay, so then we have this other person and his colleagues first demonstrated that it is indeed electricity. Okay, so they demonstrated it somehow. And let's just read the end for kicks. We have, this could come as one large burst or as a series of smaller charges. Okay, so still talking about electricity. Okay, so I read through this way faster than I would have if I were just reading every word. But I actually have a very good sense of what it's about, right? Venus flytraps need to know when to close. They do it with these little black hairs in their mouths or whatever. And then you can think about it. Now this paragraph is about the metaphor with memory, short-term memory. And then we say there's this thing about electricity. They puzzled this out. And then there's something about calcium in the next paragraph, and then somebody else confirmed it. That's what we have. That's a really, really solid understanding of what's happening in this paragraph. Does that approach make sense? Oh no. I know that was taking a while, so I hope you're still there. But this is the approach. Oh, does it really not do that anymore? That's so frustrating. Wow, I'm so sorry. I think I missed both. Yeah, that made it easier. Great. Now this works pretty well for the science section because it's very scientific, right? This is a very logically written thing, so it's a little bit more easily to puzzle out logically. The prose one, where it's a story, can sometimes be harder because the stories jump around and you might miss some really important thing where they go from talking about this person to maybe they're an author, so then they made up this person, now you have this other person, so you might miss those things, so be very careful there. But it definitely works for the science. It also works for the history because the history ones are not going to jump around. It's just the prose ones that can be a little bit messy. But now we have a great idea of what's going on here. So let's just look at the answer choices to see how much that actually helped. Primary purpose. Skip it because it's too much at first. We don't know. It's about yeah. Let's just skip it. Based on the passage, a significant advantage of the Venus flytraps requirement for multiple triggers is that it... Okay, so now we go to the line numbers. We know where this is anyway, but they give us line numbers, so we can answer this one, right? You have a good sense of where things are, and that sense of things is more useful than knowing every single word of the passage, right? Because then you get bogged down by that, and you're so busy looking at the trees that you forget to look at the forest, right? You can't see the forest. That is a metaphor that I heard recently, and I really like it. Don't get stuck looking at the trees, look at the forest when you're doing these passages, because then you're above them and you can, play your little puppet master stuff. Okay, you know what's going on, you just don't know all the little details. Okay? Figure them out as you go, as it's required for the questions. So that takes care of 43 and 44. 45 is the use of the phrases this and this. Establishes a tone. Okay, so I actually, while this is a purpose question, or it's a tone question, it's actually not too hard because they say happily meanders and, whoa, I can't actually read that. Unassuming bugs encounter. Okay, I don't think those are academic, maybe melodramatic. Informal, I like. Mocking, I don't think it's mocking. I would go with informal. So that might be a little bit easier. I don't know if you made sense in number 45, but that's something that you don't need a lot of understanding of the passage. Then we have the next one in the second paragraph, the discussion of short-term memory primarily functions to, okay, why did they use that metaphor? That's a purpose question, so maybe we'll come back to it, but that's actually pretty easy maybe. You might want to read the paragraph though. According to the passage, which statement best explains why the Venus flytrap requires a second trigger hair? Okay, so this is not a two-part question, so they're not going to tell us where to go. Maybe wait on this, but maybe this is, you know where to go, right? They don't tell you where to go, but you know where to go because we found that two-part system. That was the memory thing, and right before that as well. Next one is, which choice describes a scenario in which these people's model predicts that a Venus flytrap will not close around an insect? Okay. So we can go to Hodik, and Sievers, Hodik and Sievers model. So we have to find those two guys. There were two sets. I think they were the first ones. So it's their model. Let's check in with their model and then figure out which one fits that. So that's a good one because we know exactly where to go. And then the last one is vocab and context, so we should probably do this one before the other words. Does that make sense? So now we understand everything, right? Do you feel like you know what to do with all the questions? You know how they fit, and you understand the overall thrust of this passage? I think it's kind of nice. Cool. Yeah. So don't worry about understanding the details. Worry about seeing the whole forest of every single passage, and then you'll feel more comfortable because things won't be going against that passage, and then you get to the really, really, really nitty-gritty parts of each question. Okay. I want to go to the English section, and also Hono, I keep saying English. I'm used to the ACT recently. Where is the mouse? Here we go. I want to go to, okay. This is the naughty words thing that I wanted to talk about. No. Okay. The English section, writing section, whatever. Do you feel like you know, Hono and anybody else, do you feel like you're comfortable when you see a question, you know what you're being tested on very specifically, or are you always just putting in answer choices and seeing what feels nice? I think I asked that question in a pretty pointed way. Do you feel comfortable on the writing section? Are there specific question types you don't like? Depends on the question. Okay, so I want to talk about question identification, because if you know how to identify stuff, then you know exactly what you're dealing with pretty much every single time. One of the harder, and so on this page, for example, I need to get some water. Give me a second. Number 9, you know exactly what you're doing. It's the sentence ordering stuff. So I'm going to talk about that in a sec. But number 8 might be a little bit harder. What are you being tested on here? We have the verb to come. So we have to come in C, which is infinitive. We have came, which is past tense. We have A is coming, so that's the present participle. And then we have B, which is which came. Now, this is naughty word stuff or bad word stuff that I wanted to do yesterday. I didn't do yesterday, but now I'm doing today. The word which, this spelling of it. The word that, not than. Wow. It's the first time I wrote on the board today, actually. Which, that, and then a subject. So this can be nouns, pronouns. These are bad words. What I mean by that is, if you have the word which in an answer choice, or you have the word that in an answer choice, and not in other answer choices, be very, very careful. What that means is that it probably changes something from an independent clause to a dependent clause. For example, oh, is this cut off? Yeah. Let me just give me a sec. I'm gonna make sure we can see all of this. Okay. All right. So in answer choice B, we have which came. That changes things. Let's for example, if we have which, who, let's not do one about Hono. Let's do the ball bounces. This is an independent clause, right? The ball bounces. That's great. Now, you might want to say the ball bounced, which is past tense or future tense or something. It is bouncing, something like that. But if you add in the word that, this is no longer an independent clause, right? The ball that bounces, something, the ball that bounces popped. You need an active verb. So which, who, that, they make verbs inactive, right? Now bounces can't be the active verb. The ball is not currently bouncing. It's the ball that bounces needs to do something. So these words make you think independent clause. Every time. That's what you want to think about. The sentence structure, okay? So do we want to screw up the sentence structure by seeing something like answer choice B in number 8? So now we need to read the sentence. More than 60% of the contribution coming from commercial goods and services created by companies using space-related technology. I don't like coming. Let's put B in there. More than 60% of the contribution which came from commercial goods and services created by companies using space-related technology. We don't have an active verb. We have a bunch of verbs, but which came is not an active verb, right? The day came too late, or the day which came too late, not active anymore. So what's our subject? More than 60% of the contribution from commercial goods and service. I think it's contribution. Contribution is our subject. So we need the contribution to be doing a verb. Which came is not an active verb, so that's no good. Coming is not an active verb. A present participle will not be the active verb. Then we have to come, which is not even conjugated, so that's not an active verb. Then we have came. I like D the most. More than 60% of the contribution came from commercial goods and services created by companies using space-related technology. Does that make sense? I knew what to look for in this question because answer choice B had the word which in it, which changes up independent clause stuff. It no longer allows the verb that follows it to be active. That's very important. Does that make sense, Hono? It's about identifying question types. This question may just end up with you putting words in and seeing how it sounds. That's dangerous. Putting in words and seeing how they sound is not a good use of your time or your gut feeling. Regardless of what you say, you are very good at English. You know how to speak it, you know how to write it, you know how to read it, and you have a gut feeling about stuff. You just say that you speak correctly almost all the time. There are turns of phrase that we use often that butcher our grammar, but that's fine. For the most part, you do speak correctly and write correctly, and you read correctly a lot. But you're just not paying attention all the time. Now you have to pay attention. This question type allows you to point your gut feeling at the right thing. In this case, it's independent clauses, which it is most of the time anyway. Find your subject, find what you want to be your verb that the subject does. Okay. Question type. What about number 9, Hono? Do you like this question type? Do you feel like you get these wrong all the time? What do you think? Those are okay. All right, let's see. How about... Okay, let's actually do it this way. What are you being tested on in number 1? What are you being tested on in number 2? So I don't want the answers, but I want the question types for 1 and 2. What are those question types? And whatever you think you might call them. One is about tense. By one, if you mean one of these two, yes. I think the second one might be about... Oh, no. I don't think so, because tense requires verbs. These are not verbs. Oftentimes, repeatedly, many times, are adverbs. Because oftentimes you don't conjugate, it's just a word. Right? You're not changing it based on the tense. No, wait, number 1 is like back-to-back adverbs. Yes. Okay, so this is another identification thing. This is for identifying one of the harder things is when you see some of these words, and we didn't talk about this, but that's okay. Which, who, that, those things. That means, okay, my verb is no longer active, so I have to look at independent clauses. In number 1, you lose information. D is delete. If you delete something, you are losing information. Be careful when you lose information, because then do you want it or not? That's really the question. Now, B and C, oftentimes and repeatedly, and then also many times, those are all synonyms, right? So this could be a word choice question. But then D is don't have the word there at all. That should make you think, okay, this is a concision question. This is a redundancy question. Do I need to say these words at all? Which one's right if I do, but do I need to say that? And the answer is no, because you have frequently right before this underlined portion. Why would you want to say frequently repeatedly, or frequently oftentimes, or frequently many times? Don't do either of those. Yes, you do have back-to-back adverbs. Not exactly what I would call this question type. So concision questions are actually pretty easy once you know they're concision questions, right? You know that you shouldn't say the big dog is big. But if you're not paying attention and you're just saying the big dog and you're looking at that part and you don't see the second big, then how would you know, right? So the answer choices are going to point you in the right direction. In this case, we're losing information. So we've lost information in D. When you don't have information that you do have in other answer choices, you might be dealing with concision versus specificity. Sometimes you do need the information, so you don't want to lose it. Now, number 2, you're not losing information, right? We're still using the word affect or affect, the other one. And then we have on or to. So we have to figure that out as well. So this is a preposition. Number 2 is a prepositions question, and I call commonly mistaken words because we have effect versus effect. Make sense? So identifying questions allows you to start thinking about the right stuff. In number 2, you're doing 2 different things. Do you want to say effect with an A? Do you want to say with an E? And then we also have an S on answer choice D. If you want, I can go over number 2, get the answer, or we can move on. I think this section is for you is probably more about identifying question types and then maybe approach to different question types. So what question types do give you trouble, Hono? We can go over the approach. What's the difference between effect and effect? Effect with an A, and then effect with an E. For the purposes of this test, effect with an E is a noun, effect with an A is a verb. I don't know if when I was in the questions from before are the ones I struggle on. Questions from before. Sorry, what questions from before? And then effect with an A is a verb. When I learned this, I learned voom, verb, action word. Like verbs are actions, right? So if you're acting, that's an A, so it's a verb. That's how I remember it. A is earlier in the alphabet, so you're doing stuff and it's more active and you're doing it, so it's a verb. E is a noun. That's the difference. So here, do you want a verb or a noun? The first type we did. Oh, okay. So the sentence structure one. How would you feel about number 4, Hono? With the and at the end and the semicolon, things like that. Cool. Okay, so let's look for another one of those. Okay. Oh no, sorry, we just did number 8, obviously. Those are fine. How about adding and deleting? I'll look for another one of these other ones, though. Adding and deleting, or number 11, which is the transition questions. What are you thinking? Let's knock out number 12 real quick. Number 12, you have also new practice. I don't get transitions sometimes. Okay, so let's do that next. Number 12, and then I gotta go. We are. What was I gonna say? We're doing a cram session on Friday night. So if you are around Friday night, we're gonna be doing that too. So we have in number 12, we have also new practice in addition to practices and practices. We have lost information in answer choice D, right? Because we don't say new, we don't say in addition. There's nothing about extra stuff. We just say practices. Do we want that extra stuff or not? Let's see. New theories, new practices too, and technologies are transforming the 21st century workplace. Do we want to say? I think that sounds weird. So let's get rid of A. Maybe C, let's look at C. New theories, in addition to practices and technologies, are transforming. No, I think D is the right answer. We want that parallel structure of new theories, new theories, practices, and technologies are transforming the 20th century, right? 21st? Yeah. So that's what we say here. You don't need that extra information. It's not redundant. It's just you don't. It is sort of redundant because you have a list. Why would you need to keep saying the beginning of the list? Okay, so let's do transitions. What is the approach you take to these? And have you watched the stream when I've talked about the approach that I think people should take to these? If you don't have, I haven't watched the approach, and I read the previous sentence I was saying and look at the new purpose it wants. Yes. So the way I put that into words is you're going to be transitioning between two different ideas, right? Identify those two ideas without trying to put any answer choices in. Don't read them together. Don't do that. Identify the ideas very specifically without relation to each other, and then see, do they conflict? Do they agree with each other? Is one an example of the other? Is one chronologically before the other? What is their relationship? Figure that out on your own before you do the answers. It's sort of like the vocab and context in the reading section, where you're not looking at the answer choices because they will only throw you off. You'll get to them eventually, so don't worry. Okay, so in this one, so it's number 11, so before that. With world population, so I'm going before that to read that first idea. With world population topping 7 billion, humanity is in need of some perspective. Okay, we need perspective. Great. Second idea, ignoring therefore, we should continue to support NASA not only for practical reasons, but also because it is a necessary vehicle for increasing our awareness of how we can fulfill our responsibility to the planet and each other. I think those two ideas agree, because we have humanity is in need of some perspective, and then not only does NASA do this, or supporting NASA do this, but it's a necessary vehicle for increasing our awareness. So perspective, awareness, those definitely agree. I don't like however and instead, because both of those are contrasting, right? So B and D are out, and I never even put them in to see how they sound, because it's not about how they sound. This is more about the ideas themselves. Your gut feeling doesn't work super well with ideas. It works better with grammar. Then we have A and C. Do we want therefore, which is causation, or do we want example? For example, I don't think, for example is not bad. I just don't like it very much because it's, I think this now it matters what this passage is about. This passage is about NASA and supporting NASA and what NASA does. So we're not using NASA as just a run-of-the-mill example, because we're already talking about NASA up here. So we don't want to just introduce NASA as an example. That's the point. So I like A, therefore. Does that make sense? Do you like that approach? I think it's a super, super logical, clear approach, and it keeps you from making simple mistakes. That is by far the best way to do it. I have never heard of anybody else's way of doing it better than that, because I don't know what other way you would do it. You can just put all the answers in, but it's just not a good idea. We never put B or D in because it wouldn't make any sense to do that. Now, sometimes identifying the ideas is a little bit difficult. You might have to go a little bit higher and a little bit lower to get the full idea, but make sure you identify those ideas for yourselves. Okay, going to be back tomorrow night. I'm happy to keep going through the reading and writing sections and talk about question types that you want to practice with specific approaches, because the approaches are everything on this test. In math, it's concept, but your math score is very good. For reading and writing, you know how to read and you know how to write, and beyond some of the punctuation and some of the grammar, there's not much to learn. It's just learning how to take this test and the logical approaches that you should be using. And it's not really gaming the test. I think the two-part questions are gaming the test, but it's about, okay, what is the best way to logically answer this question? That is a life skill that you want to have. I am done talking, and you should be done listening to me. But we'll be back tomorrow night, and I will see you then. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Have a lovely evening.